He looked like the perfect husband on TV, but behind the smiles, he was quietly dismantling every woman who trusted him. In America's most watched plural marriage, praise became the prettiest prison. One wife was told to ditch the bitch. Another called him a good man. And in that contradiction, decades of silence began to crack. This is the story of loyalty, power, and women who finally said, enough.
I'm saying, yeah,
You'll never look at public praise the same way again. Part 1. For more than a decade, the Brown family has been in front of our cameras. The reality show phenomenon Sister Wives introduced us to Kody Brown and his plural marriage to Meri, Janelle, Christine, and later, Robyn. Christine Brown, once wife number 3, became a visible presence, often speaking directly to the audience about loyalty, faith, and family. Robyn Brown entered later, bringing her own children, and soon became perceived by many as the favored wife. In this seemingly idyllic household, Christine began publicly praising Kody as a good man, loyal, loving, strong. That praise echoed in interviews, social media posts, and even in side conversations. But behind the scenes, tensions simmered. What looked like sunshine may have been a pressure cooker. Here's where the story deepens. Christine's high-profile admiration of Kody created an interesting dynamic. By elevating him publicly, by declaring him a good man, she left little room for critique, little room for escape, especially for Robyn. Some fans now argue that Christine's consistent praise painted an unrealistic picture of Kody and Robyn's relationship. They claim that Robyn, faced with that glowing narrative, was left trapped. How could she leave if everyone believed everything was perfect? Christine's positivity began to appear less like empowerment and more like pressure. The kind of pressure that whispers, "How dare you question this love story when we've already sold the script?" Meanwhile, Robyn was living the daily reality. Complex emotions, shifting family loyalties, and an image to maintain. The tension built. But the turning point came when Christine dropped a comment. She implied that Robyn had no excuse to walk away because the public portrait said everything was on the up and up. A compliment becomes a cage, and one woman realizes she's locked in. And now, the twist. It's not what you expect. Christine's praise of Kody wasn't just admiration. It became strategic. By positioning Kody as good and the marriage between him and Robyn as flawless, Christine effectively set a trap. The trap. Robyn. By holding up that shiny mirror of perfection, Christine left Robyn no exit route, no visible justification to leave. Because if the world thinks your husband's a saint and your marriage is a dream, what damage could you claim? That's the twist. The positivity wasn't just kind. It was constraining. Some fans believe Christine knowingly, or at least inadvertently, constructed an environment where Robyn was guilted into stay. A subtle but powerful form of control hiding inside compliments. When this interpretation hit the fan forums, reactions were explosive. On Reddit, one fan wrote, "She's so aggressively pushing that our marriage is perfect that when things fall apart, no one believes you." The commentary grew. Some accused Christine of trapping Robyn in toxic positivity. Others shifted blame onto Robyn and Kody, but many eyes turned back to Christine's role in shaping the narrative. Fan pages lit up with posts like, "Why praise him so much that women think leaving is impossible?" And, "This isn't encouragement, it's a prison made of rose petals." The backlash expanded beyond fans. Analysts of the show started discussing power dynamics, how admiration can become manipulation, how positive framing can mask absence of support, how one woman's highlight of one man's goodness can leave another woman in emotional limbo. When praise becomes propaganda, who really wins? The climax arrives when Christine and Robyn locked eyes in a heated on-camera exchange. Robyn accused Christine of faking the image of a happy marriage. "Either you guys were faking it in front of me. I don't know." Christine responded with stunned silence. The cameras snapped. The music pulsed. The implication? The flawless image Christine had helped craft was now unraveling in full public view. For U.S. women watching, this isn't just reality TV. It's a mirror of what happens when "he's a good man" becomes the only story allowed, when a woman's voice disappears because the script says, "everything's fine." The fallout. Robyn's identity, once tied to perfection, now shivers on the edge of rebellion. Christine's role shifts from cheerleader to power player. And Kody? He stands in the center, praised, elevated, yet increasingly isolated. What do we take forward, ladies? First, praise is not always freedom. Sometimes it's a barrier. When we say someone is just a good man, we must ask, good for whom? Under what conditions? Second, if you feel you're locked by expectations, especially glowing ones, remember, you have the right to re-narrate your story, to question the script, to leave the perfect image behind. And finally, this story of Christine, Robyn, Kody isn't just TV. It's a lesson in emotional autonomy. In My Dear Buddy, Cynthia, and every woman dreaming of independent, authentic connection, let this be your moment of awareness. If you're watching this and thinking, wait, I'm being framed by the perfect image of someone else's story. Part 2. For years, the show Sister Wives introduced us to the large and entwined family of Kody Brown. He married 4 women under a plural marriage construct: Meri, Janelle, Christine, and Robyn. On screen, it looked like cohesion, loyalty, faith, togetherness. But beneath the surface, old patterns were stirring. Some of the most vocal voices once cheering him on, Meri and Janelle, began to speak in whispers, then in outright frustration. In recent sneak peeks, we hear the words no one wants their spouse to say, "Ditch the bitch." Not once, but in a tone so casual it hid the damage. Meri heard it, Janelle saw it, and the audience? They couldn't unhear it. What was once framed as plural harmony became tension, and the spark of conflict is about to flame. When the hurt is broadcast, what happens when the camera stops rolling? It starts small, an offhand comment, a dismissive laugh, a tone of voice that belittles rather than supports. But in a filmed marriage, every moment is magnified. Meri Brown, wife for decades, felt the shift. She spoke lately about how longtime patterns of jealousy, invisibility, and emotional neglect piled up. Janelle Brown, also a longtime partner, quietly watched the dynamic tilt. And Kody? He made the comment on national TV, telling Meri she should have ditched the bitch when discussing another woman in their circle. The disrespect echoed louder because of the lens. As fans reacted, the network rolled clips. But Meri wasn't prepared. Janelle wasn't consulted. The production moved on. The result, 2 women feeling publicly demeaned, privately enraged, a marriage model collapsing under its own weight. Emotion builds, conflict deepens. The voices once glossed over now demand to be heard. Their patience is nearing the edge. When the world watches you, you still need someone in the room who hears you. Here's the twist you didn't expect. The comment wasn't merely a slip. It was symptomatic of a much deeper pattern. The casual misogyny, the diminishing of women's voices, the assumption that wives will simply endure. What Meri and Janelle realized in that moment was this: it wasn't about one remark. It was about the fact that in the plural marriage arrangement, their pay-in isn't equal. Their feelings aren't weighed the same. Their voices aren't treated the same. The comment, "ditch the bitch," became symbolic. It wasn't about the other woman. It was about how Meri and Janelle were being treated within the system. And once they saw it, they couldn't unsee it. The twist. The conflict isn't just Kody versus the wives. It's the entire structure. The wives weren't simply dealing with one remark. They were confronting decades of being invisible, undervalued, and edited out. And when that reality hits, you don't just stay silent, you respond. That really pissed me the F off, along with the bitch comment. Just when I think he can't possibly be any worse. Social media posts lit up. Kody being called dismissive, disrespectful, tone-deaf. Meri and Janelle gained an overwhelming outpouring of support. Fans felt validated in their frustration. Analysts of the show started to talk about emotional labor, power imbalance, and female erasure in plural marriages. The story moved from reality TV gossip to a commentary on gender dynamics. For USA women watching, this isn't just a TV scandal, it's a reflection. When your partner dismisses your voice in front of everyone, does it matter if the camera is rolling? The toll? The wives' trust cracks. The audience loses faith. The brand fractures. When the world says you don't matter, what do you do when you know you do? The climax unfolds in a raw on-camera moment. Meri confronts Kody, her voice trembling but resolute. Janelle watches. The cameras hover. Kody responds with defensiveness. He questions their motives. The structure they once supported begins to look like the cage they're trying to escape. And here's the implication. The end of a plural marriage isn't just a breakup. It's a reckoning for the roles the women played, the voices they muted, and the cost they paid. For you, watching this from home, the lesson is clear. If your partner repeatedly dismisses you publicly or privately, and you feel unseen, that's not just a relationship problem, it's self-erasure. The wives stood up. They resisted. They caused a ripple. The institution they signed into is now under scrutiny. So what do we take away, my dear friend? First, words matter. In public, in private. If you're the one getting told to ditch something, and that something is you, that's a red flag. Second, visibility is power. If your story gets edited out, your voice gets muted, you start believing the silence is normal. It's not. Third, when the camera's off, the same dynamics can play. Watching this story from home means you can see the pattern before it consumes you. Comment below. My voice matters if you're ready to claim power in your story. Because you're not just a supporting role in someone else's narrative. You're the leading lady of your own life. Let's deep dive in full details. Part 3. The show is Sister Wives. It launched in 2010, documenting the plural marriage of Kody Brown and his then wives, Meri, Janelle, Christine, and later Robyn. On its surface, faith, big family, unity. But behind the cameras, patterns began to shift. Christine often praised Kody publicly, calling him a good man, featuring him in social media posts, speaking glowingly of their bond. Meanwhile, Meri and Janelle, the original wives, watched the narrative shift in ways they didn't sign up for. Then came the moment captured on national television. Kody told Meri to ditch the bitch when referencing Jen, one of the women in the family orbit. The words hung in the air, the wives swallowed, the audience gasped. But the real question, Was this a one-off comment or a symptom of something far deeper? What happens when the person who should uplift you instead belittles you on TV? And that moment wasn't nearly the worst of it. Let's rewind. Meri Brown had been married to Kody for decades. She navigated a plural marriage that, by design, promised equality but struggled to deliver it. Janelle, too, had her own history in the family: loyal, long-suffering. Meanwhile, Christine's arrival and her undeniable inclination to publicly shine made their own struggles less visible. Christine's consistent praise of Kody created an image. He's the good man, I'm the good wife. That image worked for Christine, but at what cost to the others? Fans began to notice. On Reddit, one commenter wrote, "That really pissed me the F off along with the bitch comment, just when I think he can't possibly be any worse." Meanwhile, Meri was blindsided. She later revealed production didn't warn her about Kody's comment until after filming. The emotional battle lines were drawn. The wives who had stood in the limelight for decades were now feeling sidelined and silenced. Christine's praise became the public shield. But behind that shield were two wives who couldn't leave because the narrative said everything was fine. The tension reached a boiling point when Robyn's experience comes into focus. She entered later, became the favored wife, and was caught between the public script and the private reality. The table was set for a reckoning. When your support becomes your prison, how do you break free without losing your self-worth? Let's dig deeper into the structure. In plural marriage, the ideal is that the husband gives equal love, attention, emotional labor to each wife, but in practice, not so simple. In an exclusive interview, Kody acknowledged the unequal feelings. There are ones that do different things, that have different fulfillments. I'll tell you what, there's a divine aspect about my relationship with Robyn, and we have been bitch-slapped for it. That comment alone reflects both the imbalance and the dismissal of the voices of the other wives. Legally, the case of Brown v. Booman, 2016, challenged Utah's criminal polygamy law, filed by Kody and his then-wives. It forced these private dynamics into the public realm. But the emotional implications lived behind the scenes. Meri admitted she was taught jealousy was wrong. She thought she was a bad person for feeling it. And Christine's unabashed praise of Kody? That wasn't just support. It framed the narrative. It set a benchmark. If I'm happy, you should be happy. If I praise him, you don't walk away. Suddenly, Robyn found herself living the spotless narrative while feeling the weight of being the labeled next wife. Christine's earlier praise of Kody became the invisible boundary that Robyn could not cross. The conflict wasn't just about one remark. It was about a system built on inequality, praise used as pressure, and women continuing to play parts they never auditioned for. Here's what reality TV doesn't show: the silent erasure of women whose storylines don't fit the perfect script. Now we reach the convergence of our two threads. On one side, Christine's public elevation of Kody, leaving Robyn no pathway to leave, because the story said everything was perfect. On the other side, Kody's public disrespect of Meri and Janelle, telling Meri to ditch the bitch and dismissing their perspectives. It's in that moment the facade cracks. The women who once stood together now see they were standing on different floors of the same house. Christine on the top floor, seen, applauded. Meri and Janelle in the basement, unseen, unheard. Robyn in the glass box, visible but trapped. Meri and Janelle are clearly fed up with Kody's behavior. Kody obliviously tells Meri to ditch the bitch about Jen. Fans erupt. Reddit explodes. The tension is no longer hidden. "God, he's such a little bitch boy," one fan wrote. And then the twist. The very woman praised for elevating the husband, Christine, is being accused of setting up Robyn for failure by painting an unrealistic image of what Robyn's marriage should be. The same structure that degraded Meri and Janelle now traps Robyn. For USA women watching, these aren't isolated dramas, they're blueprints. Blueprint of how admiration becomes entrapment. Blueprint of how public praise becomes private silence. The moment the camera zooms out, you see not just one scandal, but a cycle. The apex of conflict looms. Stay tuned, because what people think they're seeing is nothing compared to what they're missing. Here's the twist. Christine's glowing narrative of Kody wasn't simply about her love. It served as a cultural support for an unequal structure. By holding him up as the good man, she implicitly told Robyn, and the audience, that questioning him was unacceptable. And by shouting the narrative from the rooftops, she turned Robyn's possible exit into social absurdity. Meanwhile, Kody's flippant insult to Meri was the outward expression of a much deeper pattern of diminishing women's voices in that household. The audience erupted. Across YouTube comments, Reddit threads, Facebook groups, fans registered the shift. "He's always talking shit about Meri for years, and she's not said anything about it." Suddenly, Meri is no longer the silent wife. Janelle is no longer the quiet second. Robyn is stirring. Christine is being questioned. The structure is under fire. This isn't just reality TV drama. It's a mirror to what happens when admiration becomes the glue for silence, when praise becomes the padlock on the exit door. And for thousands of women watching in the US, the message is clear. If you're told you're blessed, praised, supported, but you feel unheard, unseen, you're allowed to question the premise. The backlash is real. Fans are calling Kody tone-deaf, dismissive of women, a man who doesn't get consequences. Christine, being labeled the master of the illusion. And Robyn, both seen and unseen, applauded and trapped. The climax has arrived. Outside the show, the comment sections turned into confession booths. On Reddit and Facebook, women shared their own versions of that silence. "He talks over her like she's invisible," one woman wrote. "I stayed with a man like that for 15 years, because everyone said he was such a good husband." Another viewer confessed, "Watching Meri's face is like watching my own marriage end in slow motion." These aren't just fan reactions, they're echoes of something bigger. When reality TV mirrors reality itself, the audience stops watching for entertainment and starts watching for truth. To understand this dynamic, we need to zoom out. In 1879, the U.S. Supreme Court decided Reynolds v. United States, criminalizing polygamy as a crime against civilized society. Fast forward to 2010. The Browns brought that outlawed structure back into living rooms, turning faith into primetime. The contrast is striking. A century ago, secrecy; today, spectacle. But the emotional mechanics, power, control, silence, remain the same. From Big Love to the Stepford Wives, pop culture has long romanticized obedience. The Sister Wives saga simply put modern names on ancient expectations. Meri once wrote, "I was taught jealousy was wrong, but I couldn't stop feeling it." Janelle reflected, "For years I believed if I worked harder, he'd finally see me." Christine admitted, "I smiled so no one would notice the cracks." And Robyn whispered, "Being the favorite doesn't mean being free." 4 women, 4 truths, 1 shared silence. Relationship expert Dr. Avery Lang breaks it down. Public humiliation corrodes the bond. It tells a partner, your emotions are negotiable. She explains that Kody's dismissive style reflects a classic power dynamic, deflection through mockery. In such systems, she adds, praise becomes currency. Whoever praises the loudest gets temporary safety, but never equality. The result? Emotional debt that no amount of love talk can repay. In the end, the words that broke them were the ones they thought would keep them together. He's a good man. Ditch the bitch. My voice matters. The screen fades to black. If you're watching this and it resonates, hit that like button now. Subscribe for more deep dives into the unseen dynamics behind the screen. Share this video with the woman who's felt trapped by the perfect relationship narrative. And in the comments below, type "My voice matters" if you're ready to reclaim your story. Because you don't just deserve to be seen, you deserve to be heard. Thank you for watching. Stay authentic, stay courageous, and above all, stay you. The bravest act isn't leaving the room, it's seeing the room for what it is, and choosing who sits beside you in it.